It is Tuesday, February 24th, 11:38 p.m. Central Standard Time. And I am laying in my bed. I've been sleeping in the recliner in the living room the past couple of nights. So I thought I would try to sleep in my bed again tonight. Try to get some sleep somehow. But anyways, I wanted to share something that I learned today. And I'll do the best I can to explain it. I decided last spring or summer, at the end of the summer, into the fall, when everything stopped growing outside, that I was going to make sure to prune my rose bushes in plenty of time before spring hits and they start growing, because they were just a mangled up mess, and I hadn't ever pruned them myself. So I'm out there tonight. I decided, well, I'm going to get out there and do that, and it actually felt good to move around. And I was like, man, I need to do this more, because my energy level has been in the dirt lately. So anyways, I got out there, and I don't know what it is about working on my flowers and stuff, that seems to be a place that God always teaches me something. So I'm out there, and before I did it, I studied really hard, YouTube videos, and I talked to a friend of mine who's the rosebush whisperer to me. He knows everything about roses. And so, because I wanted to make sure I don't kill them. And so I get out there, and I ordered these gloves thinking they were thorn proof. Well, newsflash, I don't think there is a thorn proof glove. And if it is, I probably wouldn't wear it anyways. But I'm out there, and I've got like two in the front of my porch area where my house front door is, and then another one midway in my flower bed, and then one down at the corner of the house at the end of the flower bed. So I just kind of worked my way down, and there was just a massive amount of branches that needed to be cut. And so I'm thinking about how sometimes while I'm doing this, I'm thinking about how sometimes in life, the very things that we think are the most beautiful, we have to let go of, or we have to cut off, because for whatever reason it's not meant to be. It may look beautiful, but in the end it's not. And I was just in my mind, while I'm messing with this and trying to figure out which branch do I cut, because I want to do it right, and I want to cut the ones that make the most sense based on what I've learned. And I took before and after pictures, and I'll put them at the end of this thing. I never have figured out how to narrate something with pictures, so I'll put them at the end of this video. But here I was cutting the limbs off and throwing them behind me and not paying attention where I threw them. And so several times through this process, I turned around and I would get myself tangled in the thorns of the limbs or branches that I had cut down. And so I was thinking that it had to look like a bad comedy sketch or something. I'm over here cutting these thorny branches with crappy gloves and throwing them over my shoulder, And I turn around and I get tangled up in them, and I'm trying to untangle myself. And I went through this whole process, and it occurred to me that is what I do when I'm growing and I'm changing. And I really, since I got sober, I haven't done it perfectly at all. For 39 years, almost 40 years now, I have not done AA or the 12 steps perfectly. I have stayed sober, but everything else has just been, talk about needing pruning sometimes. My life sometimes is a train wreck, and I need to prune shit. I need to get the things that are negative out of my life, or the things that no longer serve my highest good. And so, you call it working on yourself. I also call it shadow work. I believe we are all light and shadow. Light being positive and shadow being the things that we fight within ourselves. I guess you could call it negative. So here I am out there. I've cut these things off that I think no longer serve me on my rose bushes, only to turn around and get tangled up in them again. And I thought, this is exactly what you have done sometimes in your life, Andrea, because you didn't cut everything off and get them away from you, get it out of your way. You left it right there at your feet where you get tangled in it again. So did you really let it go? Did you really cut it away? And I was just like, whoa, that is such a metaphor in my life. And it's not to say that there's all these horrible things in my life as a mess. It's not. But even, it was funny because at one point there was this tiny little spindly branch that I had cut, and it was the one that I got hung up on the most all the way through this. It kept coming back up on my pant leg. And I was like, what the hell? I try to get rid of that. That's a mantra for my life. And so, I got through it, and I think it looks pretty good. It looks kind of, when it's very much a metaphor for me, because there have been so many times in my life that I've been just a twisted, mangled mess, and I've had to do the work on myself and allow God or Spirit or my Creator, or whatever you want to call it, do the work on me to prune things back that don't need to be there so that other things can grow. And I was reading on one side about pruning roses, and if so much stuff gets tangled up in the middle, the rose bush can't breathe. And I was out there messing with this and thinking so many times that I had to prune or allow God to prune the middle, the stuff in the middle that was hanging me up where I couldn't breathe. Yeah, I had to prune it away. I had to allow it to fall away. And to the outside, and even to me, it looked like my whole life fell apart. And yet, in due time, there was room for more beautiful things. And so I'm looking at these rose bushes tonight, and after I got done with them, they look like their life has fallen apart. It looks that way. But I know this spring I'm going to watch it grow like crazy, and this summer it's just going to be gorgeous. And I hope that I remember this experience today when I see how beautiful they are in just a few months. Because I need to remember that sometimes when I'm going through the hardest things, that's because God's making room for something beautiful. And right now I feel like things are really hard for me. And some of it's things I don't have any control over. It's outside of me, and some of it's within me. And I just have to, I'm so grateful to God that He gave me this picture. So I think in pictures that, yeah, gotta lop that one off. Even though there was a pretty little bud right there, it's in the wrong spot. And that's like a character defect for me. You think, well, you're doing fine, but then something will pop up, like greed or anger or something, and it'll look pretty on the outside, but you know what it really is. So you have to let it go in order to find any peace. And that's what I was watching as I was going through the process of pruning my rose bushes. That if I want to get to a higher level with my spirituality and with my higher power and even in my life, then I have to be willing to prune the things away that need to be pruned, or do the work, or do the shadow work, whatever you want to call it, so that, and allow God to make space for more beautiful things, more and I can look back on my life and see how that principle has been true all through my sobriety, all the way through it. I have to let certain things go in order to make room for other things. And then when I do, God just always has a way of blowing my mind at how beautiful things can be. So, hope I remember that. Because this later in the summer, because I always say my flowers that I plant are my prayers. And when they bloom and grow, they're my answered prayers. And here's my rose bushes, making room for more beautiful growth in the spring and summer. And I don't know if that made any sense to anybody, but it makes sense to me. So, there you go. Anyways, here are my before and afters of my 3 rose bushes. So, love you guys. Good night.